Today, we're going to talk about the hack of a major cloud provider, Blackbaud. You may not have heard of Blackbaud, but chances are pretty good that Blackbaud has heard of you. Blackbaud provides fundraising and financial management services for nonprofits and major corporations all around the world. That includes 1 out of 3 of the Fortune 500 companies. They have millions of users in over 100 countries, and so this breach has the potential to affect a huge number of people. So here to fill us in is Matt. Why don't you tell us what happened, Matt?
Thanks, Sherry. So on February 7th, Blackbaud was hacked. They didn't realize they had been hacked until May 14th of this year when they noticed an unauthorized login to one of their servers, and they were able to trace back to when the activity started. After they had been hacked, they were hit with ransomware. And then as of July 16th, they had to start notifying their clients that they had been hacked and that data had been stolen from their network.
So this was actually an example of a double extortion ransomware case. We've seen a lot of these lately. It's becoming a trend where criminals will break into your organization, spend weeks or even months stealing your data. They will analyze your data and often use it to help set the price of the ransom demand. They'll look through your financials and things like that. And then if you don't pay the ransom to get your data back, they will threaten to expose you to the world or expose that information to the world, something that would affect not just the cloud provider, but also potentially their customers and data subjects. So Matt, I'm just curious, did Blackbaud pay the ransom?
Blackbaud did pay the ransom. They went ahead and made a Bitcoin payment to the attacker with the attacker's promise that all the data they stole would be deleted from their system and they wouldn't publicly release any of the data for anyone to download in for like a darknet forum or a marketplace or anything along those lines. And as we all know, you can totally trust a hacker.
Yeah, Blackbaud has assured their customers that the hackers say they deleted the data, so don't worry about this. But as we all know, the data was stolen and you can't trust hackers. And so legally speaking, and possibly ethically, many organizations are still required to notify, depending on the types of information that's in there.
So Sherry, what kind of data was stolen?
That is the multi-million-dollar question, Matt, because when a cloud provider gets hacked, they are typically not tracking all of the types of information that every single one of those customers is storing in their systems. So once Blackbaud gets hacked, they can try to do an estimate and evaluate what kinds of information may have been stolen, but it's going to be up to each individual customer to do their own investigation. Based on some of the notifications that have been trickling out from customers, we know that they likely have donor information in their systems, sometimes driver's license numbers, names, addresses, contact details. Often organizations are keeping track of interests and extracurricular activities associated with the people in their systems. So Matt, what do you think of the notification timeline on this?
So the notification timeline to me is, if I'm a customer of theirs, is going to be relatively concerning. I mean, there is the set of months in between when they were hacked and when they realized it, and then there's another 2-month window where they were investigating before they actually were able to notify the clients. We're looking at 5 months from the hack, and obviously people are kind of scrambling about this now, especially when we're thinking about GDPR regulations or international data regulations, which are a lot more strict than some of the ones we have here in the United States.
The investigation has only begun when the cloud provider notifies. After that, individual customer organizations have to go through the often painful process of figuring out exactly whose information is in there, what is in there, what kinds of regulations apply, and then whether or not they should notify. And this is expensive. The cost of these breaches trickles down to so many people. There's the cloud provider themselves, there's each customer organization. Maybe an affected customer will need to offer identity theft protection to keep the peace with the folks that they work with. So that can add up. It affects the companies that insure all of those different customers. So we are seeing some huge ripple effects throughout our industry right now.
That's right, Sherry. And there's a number of uses for this information that should make us care about it being stolen. I mean, there's the obvious potential for identity theft, knowing things like our name, our address, our driver's license number, and a lot of other kind of really personal information like that. But there's also the increased possibility of targeted phishing attacks based on all the information about you that someone else might know now. If I know exactly where you went to school and what your extracurriculars and interests are, I can craft a much more accurate phishing email and get a much higher click rate on that phishing email and probably get a lot more response from it.
And the purpose of notification is to help all the people who may have been impacted monitor for this type of activity and protect themselves. The problem is, if there's a 5-month delay between the time that an organization gets hacked and the time that people are actually notified, the subjects can't actually protect themselves during that time period.
All right, so what are our key takeaways here? What can we learn from the Blackbaud incident?
Well, number one, you need to be managing the security of your supply chain. So take a look at your cybersecurity framework. Make sure you're prioritizing your third-party suppliers like cloud providers and identifying where are you storing that sensitive information. Take your most important cloud providers and ask about their security practices. Make sure you're looking at your contracts and understanding, are they going to notify you if they suspect a breach? And if so, what is the time frame on that? Will they notify you as soon as they start investigating? Will they notify you weeks or months later when the investigation is complete? That's something that's really important to understand ahead of time. Also, you should understand your insurance coverage. If a cloud provider gets hacked, will their insurance cover your investigative costs? Often it doesn't. Will your insurance cover your investigative costs if it's a cloud provider that gets hacked? And then what if you have to notify? How much are you going to have to spend out of pocket because this cloud provider that gets breached? These are all questions that you should be asking right now before a breach happens so that you know how to handle it in the event that there is a breach. So the bottom line is that when your cloud provider gets hacked, you end up paying the price.
Thanks everyone for watching. We are Matt and Sherry with LMG Security. Make sure you like and subscribe and follow us on Twitter at LMG Security.